What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Just waiting for everybody to jump on. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Hello. Thanks for jumping on. Namaste. We're going to be taking some questions. We're going to get Tane on. I didn't get coffee, but I basically finished the coffee that was there, which I was still playing around with. Thank you, Anirban. Means a lot. Let's get Tane on. Not on yet. My lockdown's going good, man. Just trying to get. Trying to help some of you guys. Beta should be out anytime now. It's just purely in Google's code. We don't know. It could be today, it could be tomorrow. Somebody says another day of criticizing everything and promoting Avalon. Actually, we're trying to help people, be self-independent without paying a single rupee. So I don't know what your problem is actually. So guys, before Tane comes on, I've got this new approach to moderation on my Instagram, which I'm going to start doing from today. I've noticed that, as you get bigger, there are a lot of haters and trolls that kind of come to the page just to talk shit. So what I'm trying to do is that, or rather what I'm going to start to do from tomorrow is that essentially if somebody is insightful, if somebody is helpful, if somebody has a valid and fair criticism, that's great. And I will most likely respond to that, or like it, or follow you guys, or whatever. But if somebody is going to type toxic stuff, repeat the same 5 things, or nitpick on really small things, I'm going to block and mute them because it's a waste of my time. I spend a lot of my time creating, and it creates the wrong impression for, say, a new person coming in when there's a troll doing a troll's thing, right? So we're going to be clean and we're going to be respectful on this Instagram because it's. Let me just switch off. I know. So we're just waiting for Tane. We are waiting for Tane. Tane, it seems like you're not on yet. I added you, Tane.
Hello and welcome back. Can you hear me? Can you see me now? Okay. Did you drop after adding me? Yeah, I can hear you now.
1 second.
Hello. Yes. No. Yeah.
Okay. Better?
Yes.
My headphones
What
are on.
happened?
Nothing. I switched off the Bluetooth for a bit. Now my voice should be perfect and clear. So Tane, I was telling people. I was telling people about I have some new moderation rules on my Instagram now. So the thing is, as we get bigger, right, or as I'm seeing that I'm getting bigger on Instagram and social in general, these trolls keep coming, right? One or two trolls.
Yep.
We put out a lot of stuff for
Yep.
free, and most of our stuff is free, in fact. So there's some people who just come criticize, say the same thing 5 or 6 times. So instead of responding to them, which was my old strategy, now I'm just going to block that comment, right? It's just going to be straight black or white. But if it's fair criticism, if it's fair And if it's a good comment, if it's insightful, then that's great. Then I will respond positively. But otherwise, we're just going to restrict or block somebody's account so that we can continue doing our thing without, answering this, because it takes energy, right? Whereas I could spend the same energy creating more content for Meta or whatever. So that's what, that's the small change. That's moderation rules that are stepping up on my Instagram. But now that that's done, guys, we are going to take some questions, and we are going to see if we can help you guys live. Okay, let's see. So guys, feel free to press the questions button below and ask me the questions. Me and Tanay will pick up some questions at random and answer those questions. I don't know why the questions are not showing up. Instagram is not the best app.
Let's keep the questions only to college dropping out, not about what's the best laptop and all. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's just talk about college and dropping out, and you guys can actually ask the questions live in the chat, and we will. The questions button I think is broken. I can see the questions button, but you guys can't see it. That happens on Instagram sometimes. It's just they don't care about this app anymore. Cool, guys. So just ask me directly, and let's see if we can start chatting. Cool. Please let us know about public
service.
Public service exams. Tanay, all you.
See, anyway, public jobs are less than 1% today, or maybe 2% at most. Even that is a lot, which I'm saying. The kind of job which you want to do to get in, it would be a big problem, because there are certain reservations and the number is very small, because public service openings open only when someone dies. So the lifespan is increasing and you don't get in easy. If your target is public service exams, maybe you are at the wrong place, I would say. But even if you want to do, suppose you want to give IAS, how would going to college help you? You don't need engineering BTech degree to become an IAS. You can just be a BA, BCom, anything, any degree which does not need a lot of money or time investment, and you can prepare for that. In tech, I don't know about public service exams. I don't see there are public service a lot hiring going on. Understand that this is more about generic things, right? Where everybody gets a job, everybody gets a job security. Public service is not that area wherein everybody gets a job, and you should not, in a government, you should not hope from the government to give you jobs. The government's job is to create opportunities for entrepreneurs to create jobs and not create jobs directly. So that's my answer to this.
Okay. So I think my answer to public service, see, I've worked in the private sector a lot, in the sense that JobSpy, to give you guys some background, we served 3.5 million requests in 2016, worked with 1,500 recruiters, including Uber and Swiggy, and some of the biggest recruiters, in fact, Paytm. And, we worked with so many applicants that we have not really worked in the government sector, because we did not have an exposed API from the government to help people find jobs there. So my experience there is limited. But in general, I think that public sector is very good for certain type of people who are not the most creative in the world, but who really want that job security because their financial situation is not the great. If your financial situation is extremely, extremely poor, and your responsibility is, I will build the stability so that my next generation can take a few risks, then the public sector is for you, right? And that's as much as I know about the public sector. In fact, my knowledge on the IAS exams is very low, in the sense I don't exactly know the structure there, but what I lack there, I make up in the private sector, because that was my bread and butter for 3 years, right? So that's that about the public exam. Now let's take another question.
So other question which I liked was, what about placements? Varun, you want to take this up?
Mm-hmm. Which one?
Placements. How would students get placed? College placements.
See, in the past, college placements were, you applied to some dream company, right? You put like 2 or 3 slots so that you don't overcrowd a college, and then you go to the interview, and then if they like you in the interview, you get in, right? And in fact, we found in placements the marks don't matter so much, because we came for placements, right? JobSpy. Even Avalon went for placements. So when JobSpy went for placements, we had 300 people applying. when Avalon went for placements, we had 600 people apply, and out of 600, we selected 12, I think, if I remember, in Manipal. Then we went to PES Institute for placements. We went to BMS for placements. We've gone to RV Engineering for placements. So at the end of the day, I think I've spoken to a lot of other guys, who are, see, when I go for placements, I'm the CEO. I know exactly what the company wants. When a TCS goes for placements, it's not the CEO coming, right? It's some random employee of TCS who's one level higher than you, who's responsible for hiring.
Bharo.
Right? So
get on a truck.
Yeah, so it's like that AIB video, आलू का कितना आलू चाहिए.
So पानी फेंक रहा है.
Right? So I've seen that when junior recruiters go to hire people, it's more an ego thing, right? They're just like, I'm getting the opportunity to flex my powers now. So I will, pick somebody, ye banda acha hai because his emotion. But that's never true. Like I found that there are some people in my team who can barely speak English, but they are fantastic at what they do, right? Whether it be code or whatever. And, I can guarantee you a junior recruiter would just be like, this person has zero communication skills. I'm not taking this person. But I was like, okay, I gave that person a task and I realized it doesn't matter what this person's communication skill is, because there's a hidden layer. The person is also an introvert. There's a hidden layer of, actual technical skill below this. So they'll miss out on all that. So in college placements, it's all about shosham, right? When you go into the placement. So if you speak well, if you're able to present yourself well, then you get a job. It doesn't matter how good you were. I keep saying this, right? In a class, the most efficient guy is the guy in the middle benches, not the front bench guy who's sitting and kissing up to the teacher, not the back bench guy who's throwing paper planes, but the middle bench guy who's actually there to focus, and he's the hidden guy. He doesn't talk so much, but he never gets chosen to be the class rep. He never gets chosen to be the class monitor. The class monitor or the president of the school is always the popular guy or the popular girl who's loud and who communicates well. But when it comes to a job, especially most of these roles, it's not that usually works. But junior recruiters don't know this, so they pick anybody who they think whose acting is good. So I found that if you want to excel at college placements, act like going to drama club. Just be like, I really passionately care about this problem, and you guys are doing an amazing job, and we should do this, and you should have a brilliant idea. But if you guys, this doesn't work online, right? Online, it's purely like your history. If you've done things, and that's the thing, right? If you're saying that TCS, 75% of their placements are going to be online, I mean, 75% of their workforce is going to be working from home, then 75% of their placements is online, right? Obviously, you're not going to walk out of your house just for the placements, right? If your work is online. So 75% of the placements are online, you can't shut down the rest of the crowd, because there's some people who are introverts, some people who are extroverts, right? The extroverts usually speak so loud that they suppress the introverts. Right? But online, you can't do that. It's one-on-one, right? And even if there's a group, everyone will get 5 minutes to talk, right? So in situations like that, your history, what you've done in the past is more important than your acting, right? So that's how placements, in my opinion, are going to evolve. And if you want to get placed online, job boards, there's so many remote work from home job boards now. Referrals, for sure, referrals if somebody's already working there, and networks like say the Avalon Army, say Team Tanay. I think Team Tanay, especially if you do code, Team Tanay is probably one of the best places to be, because I think through a 1 degree or 2 degree connection, you can get into any company in India. Right? That's what I think, or any tech company in India. But I'd like to hear your thoughts on it.
Now we have got people from Google, Uber, everyone in Team Tanay. Like everybody is there to mentor people. It's not a one-person army anymore. And with the job challenge thing, we are more near to guaranteeing placements than anybody else without charging a single rupee and without putting you into a GD kind of situation or a quant kind of situation. What you need to do is you need to code. That's what you're there for, right? You want to code, you code, you create 5 projects and you get a job. That's that easy with so many mentors coming in. And why are these people coming in? Because they also feel, you saw when we tweeted about I am a graduate, how many people retweeted it saying yes. Because everybody now they're
500 mentions.
Yeah, yeah. So we did a DDoS on your @ isn't it?
But go ahead.
So all of these techies, though, they have realized that college hasn't played any role actually. Instead of wasting time, and they want to help, and that's why they are coming up here to help. They are conducting sessions. They are reviewing your projects. Nothing like this has ever been done before. And let me tell you this, and that too for a platform online for free, out in open on GitHub. Everything is on GitHub. The code, everything is on GitHub. And this is something which everybody else can do. Anybody else can, the group can come together and create a learning opportunity for everyone. And since now you have Tanay Pratap and you have people from all these big companies, from Google, from Uber, from Nutanix, everyone, you get to get, the network effect of these people. So we have now say 150 jobs offers ready for people. Like that's the best placement. And these are not TCS, by the way. I'm telling you, this is not TCS. These are 8 to 18 lakh job offers. That is the range for a fresher.
And one suggestion that I would make, and I think one suggestion I'd like to add to this is that you shouldn't be paying for placements, right? You should not be paying a fee to a recruiter to get you placed, because I think Team Tanay said that it's free, right?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, why do you want to pay? There are companies coming in, Varun, who are ready to sponsor a challenge saying that, hey, go and build this. And if you build this, I'll pay you money and I'll give you a job offer as well. It's like hackathon plus placement. Because people want talented people. There's a dearth of, there's no talent outside. That's the problem. People don't know React Native, JavaScript, because colleges are still teaching you Java, still teaching you PHP. I don't know why. So placements are taken care of. Placement is done. Let's go to the next question. I think if you want to get placed, just need networks and need to show your work, you'll get placed.
Okay. So Tanay, this is a question for you, right? Which I think is more relevant to you. If I take coding seriously now, how much time would it take, A, to become reasonably good, and B, to get a job?
3 months. That's it.
To get reasonably good, or to get a job?
To get reasonably good and get a job of 10,000 rupees as an internship. That's all. You take 3 months.
What about a stable job? What about a stable job? What if I want to make a lakh a month? How long will that take me?
A year, mostly if you're really dedicated like me, a year, or if you are like a student, you're moving slow, you're lazy, a year and a half. But that's it. You can't take more than that. More than 18 months means you are not on the right path, or you are just trying to waste your father's money or your time. Either or.
So I think one thing that I want to add to this is that I know some of you want to drop out, and this session is about kind of powering through dropping out. So what me and Tanay decided in that 5 minutes gap is that we thought that we will put out a framework, an Excel sheet, where instead of dropping out randomly like an idiot, drop out with a plan, right? So we're going to give you in that Excel, there are going to be 2 sheets in that Excel sheet. The first one is going to be the skills that we think you should learn, the amount of time those skills will take, and the average CTC for those skills in India, right? That's sheet number 1. Sheet 2 is going to be a sprint planning sheet with your parents, because see, people can't keep themselves accountable. You are going to start slacking after 2 weeks. We both know that, unless you're very passionate about the topic. So what we're going to do is we're going to use your parents. Somebody said, if my parents don't agree, should I get rebellious? My suggestion is not to get rebellious. My suggestion is to do it hand in hand with them, right? To sit down with them and say, sheet 2, sprint planning plan, every 2 weeks, I'm going to report to you and tell you how much I've progressed. Right? Tanay, I want you to shine some more light on that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would go a little bit emotional here, but people say that, because God can't be everywhere, they created mom. Tell your dad that because God can't be everywhere and teach you, they created you. So please make me accountable for this and work with me. Like, you have to work with your parents. Fighting inside house will create tension and it will not foster creativity. Trust me on this. Only way is to convince your parents. If they are not letting you drop out, work on the sidelines for something like job challenge or some skill, get an internship, get a recognition from an industry expert, and then go ahead and present again saying that, hey, this is the plan which I want to do. But yes, have a plan. We will give you one blueprint. We can't give you a plan, but you have to make your own plan saying this is what I want to do in next 1 year, that I'm going to get a job, I'm going to get an internship, or I am going to get this X or Y. Set that goal, work on that, and then break it into smaller chunks. See, the entire thing about, one thing which I will tell you, go and learn about Agile maybe, and how people do software these days, because everybody works in that model today. Breaking things into smaller chunks, into actionable goals and achievable goals. And once you have that Excel ready, sit with your dad and say, if I don't follow this in next 1 month or 2 months, whatever you say, I'll do that. Because that proves that you can't be trusted.
Yeah. So I think it should be more of a trust thing. Like, see, that's somebody said, right? Can I get rebellious against my parents? That's never works. That never ever works. Because see, when something comes from a place of ego, right? Your parents can smell it. He is trying, or he or she is trying to be, to get bigger than their boots. Instead, if you ask for a hand-holding approach, more than anything, now that you have said that, see, I don't have anything to give you, I don't have money, but I have trust, right? You trust me, right? And this sheet 2 is about trust. If I fail, if I do not meet my targets, you should be, as parents, you should be the judge of whether this was a lapse of trust or whether this was a lapse of, actually the task took longer than 2 weeks, right? And I've actually done this. I've done this in my life when I've trained people, and I've trained people, a lot of people one-on-one before. I've done this exact same thing, not the sprint planning thing, but it's a trust game, right? Where I'm like, I expect you to complete this in 2 weeks. If you complete this in 2 weeks, then we're good. Otherwise, I'm just going to ignore you, right? Or I'm not going to give you attention. I'm going to give the next person attention and get that person to get better. And that works. For some reason, that works, right? So it's a trust currency that you have with your parents. In fact, it's the biggest currency that you will ever have with your parents. If you're stuck in a random place, you're going to pick up your phone and call who? Your parents, right? You're not going to call some random friend you met yesterday. True. This trust economy that you have between your parents, I think the sprint sheet will really help with. And at the end of the day, in those 6 months, you're learning the right skills. And that's why I'm not recommending things like stock market or anything, because, that is risk. That is absolute risk. Your performance doesn't depend so well on whether you learn something or not. Your performance actually depends on a lot of factors that you can't control. So we are going to teach you skills that you can control to a very large extent, things that really depend on logic and really depend on execution of skills. And more importantly, it's a plan with the team. And sheet 3 will have the communities, right? We'll have Avalon Army, we'll have this, so that tomorrow, if you need the referrals to get that first internship, sheet 3 is about the internship, right? To get that internship, whether through Team Tanay, through Gradiate, through Avalon Army, whatever it is, we'll find some more communities. Like very recently, I found this community online called Ember.js Club. It's a Slack group. I don't know if you've heard of Ember.js. You've heard of Ember.js?
Yeah. Yep.
Right. It's a JavaScript framework. It's a slightly older framework. It's not so popular, but they have a
But
Slack
LinkedIn
group.
uses it.
And LinkedIn uses Ember?
LinkedIn is completely Ember.js shop.
Right. So the point is that you take any of those Slack groups, and we will compile, some of those Slack groups. I think some of you guys from the Avalon Army can help us compile all these different Slack groups. Those are the best places to get jobs. Because when you're part of that community, not only do they keep you accountable, you aspire to be like somebody there. Like when I'm learning Unreal Engine, there's some people in the Unreal Engine forums that I aspire to be like, right? And at most, in my life, I've always aspired to be like people, and then I've surpassed them. Right? That should always be the goal. So these communities will be there for you to get into. So if you choose, say, for example, if you choose game design as a skill, we will tell you the communities, like Unreal Engine community, the Unreal Engine Slack, there's an Unreal Engine Discord. So you can get into some of those groups, and so you can ask for referrals later for jobs. So that's sheet 3, right? So anything you want to add to that, or should we take the next question?
Yeah, I mean, I like your point. You always stress on saying that if you want to build your muscles, just hang out with bodybuilders all the time, and suddenly you will get that motivation. And I've been using that everywhere, by the way. I take your quote and use it. I think this is the same thing, a bigger version of that. And this is a great point. Yeah, let's take the next question. I think you have summarized it really well.
Can you talk on this topic in small towns, right? How does a small town child or a small town 18, 19-year-old convince their parents? This is a bigger challenge because the small town parents have less information. They're more WhatsApp university driven. So they're trying to impress their friends by telling them that my child is going to a city and getting a job. Now that going to the city is out of question, how is a small town boy or girl supposed to convince their parents? Question to you.
Haven't thought about it. You have to understand what your parents actually want. What's the actual motive? Is the motive a brand? If the motive is a brand, then tell them that there's a bigger brand, like going to a college versus working with a person who is in Microsoft or in Google or in Uber or in Nutanix or any of these big companies. If you intern with one of these kids and contribute to their open source projects, I think that's a bigger brand, right? If they want to talk about brand, you talk about brand. See, this is the skill which you have to learn from. I think you wrote a book around this, Varun, right? Negotiate like an Avalonian, right? Read that book. These are the things which we can't teach you. But what I'm saying is there are opportunities around everything. If these are a small scale, small city parents, let them talk to us. Get them here. Let them talk to us one on one. We can talk to one on one to some parents and explain them why this makes more sense. Show them these videos. See, the only way I see as a rational mind to convince someone is bombard them with the right kind of information. And that's what you should do with your parents. They are WhatsApp University students. Tell them, hey, you trust this random dean which you don't know from some Lalu Prasad University college, or you trust this person who we know, he's from Microsoft, he's a CEO, he's this person, he's that person, more. Who do you trust more? You don't even know the name of that dean, right? You know our names, you know where we live, you know what we are and what we are trying to stand for.
And we're constantly forced to prove our credibility, right? Like when you're on social, you don't realize if I make mistakes, or I do make mistakes, but if I make too many mistakes or if I'm not able to keep up, like eventually people will call me out, right? So we have a responsibility and a focus to consistently prove what we're saying is true, right? So we have that onus, we have that responsibility on us. Colleges don't, they're invisible. After you're done, they'll be like, you didn't study, you get out. It's your problem, right? So So it's more like you have to tell your parents you have to ask your parents, who do you trust more, right? And the world is changing, and your parents, trust me, your parents are understanding it, right? In fact, 1918 was the last pandemic. So, in fact, your parents are the only generation that missed a pandemic. That is the first time they're seeing a pandemic. Before that, 2 generations saw a pandemic at the same time. Both the older generation as well as the younger generation. Your parents are the only generation that were born and brought up in a time where there is no major pandemic. So, they're seeing a shift in their worldview for the first time ever. For the first time ever, right? And with this entire job loss, the industrial age, when it came about, when steam machines came about, there's this song, okay, by Linkin Park. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's called Wretches and Kings. In the beginning of the song, there is this speech. I don't know who the speech is by, where this guy says, you must do anything you can to stop the machines. You go put your body on the levers and the gears so that it stops moving. You do whatever it can because the machines are stealing our job. This industrial revolution happened before your parents' time. So your parents were born in an era where there was already steam machines, etc., etc. So they've never seen a pandemic. They've never seen automation. This is the first time. Suddenly, in like a few months' time, they're going to be seeing both, right? And this is a worse pandemic than last time, and this is a worse automation than last time, right? So their worldview is shifting. If you don't take advantage of it now, when are you going to take advantage of it? And it's not about taking advantage. It's the right thing to do in the first place.
Definitely, yeah. So there's a funny question coming in comments right now. Is my mom says if I don't get a degree, I will not get married.
Okay.
I don't know what to say.
Okay.
I mean, where does your mom get this stuff from? I mean, seriously, loss of words. How is marriage related to a degree? Don't know.
See, these Indian marriages, right, that have 500, 600 people come to them. I think that in the pandemic, that's actually a new thing. You'll be very surprised. In the olden days when marriages happened, even American marriages, they're very small. A small gathering of people in a very private place, right? It's not this large event. Indian marriages are like they're like a One Direction concert where there are 500 people and you're screaming and talking. That doesn't actually happen. And in a post-pandemic era where you're not allowed to go to college, you're obviously not going to be allowed to have a huge wedding. So I think that you're going to have small weddings in a very private place. There's going to be partial lockdown release, so you're going to be able to gather in like 20, 30 man groups maybe. And in a situation like that, you must...
Someone answered saying, tell your mom how Sachin got married. You know, success trumps everything. Success, if you are successful, if you have money, you will get married very easily. And
no, but the
going
point
to college
is
for marriage, seriously.
Yeah, that's a stupid thing, right? Like if you want to...
Yeah.
I mean, what is the relationship? But I understand how deep-rooted it is in India, right? When we were doing JobsPub, we saw these few things about, you know, when people are getting married, like in small towns, in front of the name of the person, say Raj, it was B.Tech Raj marries B.Tech Lakshmi. It's very ingrained.
Seriously?
Degree is, yeah, that's their name. So their degree and their job status is so, it's their Instagram story, right? It's their way of showing off to everybody else. But today we have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have social credibility, we have proof of work that I have done something and I can see it live, right? So you no longer need, till now, before the internet, you won't know what somebody's done apart from their degree, right? You won't know their list of accomplishments. So today, your list of accomplishments are live, and if whether you have a degree or not, nobody even asks, right? They just look at your list of accomplishments instead. So that is changing, and if you wait 1 or 2 years, you'll have a degree but no marriage, because now the criteria for marriage is completely changed, right? So I think doing a degree for marriage is the dumbest thing you can do, right? You might as well go pay the parents of the girl another 10 lakhs if that's what you'd rather spend it there than in college, because you waste 4 years in college. Literally, you're going to jail for 4 years to get married. Is that your plan?
And why do you want to marry a person like that? That's another question. Like, be independent and find a girl for yourself who loves you for what you are and not which college or which degree you have. That's seriously saddening for me, actually, knowing that there is a real thing wherein people are printing BTech on their cards. Wow.
It's a true thing. And you know, that's the thing, right, Tanay? Like, now we are fighting this fight where we have some people who are listening to us, right? 4 years ago, 2013, that's what, 7 years ago, when I started this fight against college, you should see the amount of backlash I got. People like, nothing, you're never going to do anything in that college. And I stuck to my word and I was like, no, college is going to eventually lose its value. I can see it happening. Nobody believed me. And at that time, you know, with marriage, with everything, it was so ingrained. So I know the situation from then to now. And I can guarantee if it continues on this trend, in the next 2 years, nobody will even care about college. Right? In the next 2 to 5 years, nobody will even care about college. If you're doing it for a girl, trust me that the criteria is going to change by that time. So don't think about it so much. And you know, now we have people like you're changing society as you watch this live, as you spread this word, as you put this in front of, you know, your parents, you are changing society. You don't underestimate your role in the entire thing as audience.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Next question, Tanay, take one.
What's your opinion on open source in non-software industries? What programming language should I learn first? Programming language I should learn first, JavaScript. What about branches other than CS? This is a great question. I'll take this one. What about branches other than CS? Because when we're talking about Gradiate, I was telling this to my wife and she said the same thing. But what about branches other than CS? And I asked her, Mrs. Akanksha, this is the thing, you are an electronics and communications graduate and you're working as a software engineer doing JavaScript whole day. So first tell me what happened to your degree. Okay. And then she was like, okay, nothing, no response. The point which I'm trying to make is branches other than CS, they do not have core placements anyway. And with more machines coming in, your core placements is going to go away. So if you are not in some and doing a printing and media and doing a biotech in India, these are who is going to hire? Just ask these colleges how many of their people are getting into core jobs, and then make a decision. No, because everybody is going to get into TCS eventually. So why worry about this? What I'm trying to tell you is look 4 years into the future when you are making this decision. Which college you are getting in, which branch you are getting in, how much of the core placements are there. First think of these things. And I liked Varun's point saying research labs are coming up, and there are research labs around CCI, which is Cisco certified expert kind of thing, wherein you just go and buy some time on the research machine. So you learn everything online, then you go and do your actual research on the machines, and that's the kind of thing which will come up for all of these branches eventually. But I'll tell you this, getting a core placement is very tough, at least in India. So do make the decision taking that statistics into account. Don't think that, "Arey, wo kar liya to I'll also do." This is the problem. When I tell you that they go for JavaScript, I'm not saying that other languages don't have job. What I'm telling you is go where the demand is, where the market is. Don't go and sell things which nobody wants to buy.
So that's the thing, right? People went to Manipal. There were 2,000 engineers that they took in. Out of that, only some 150 or something were computer science engineers. So you going and thinking that Manipal will get you a good job. What if you get some, fringe role? And what if you get no job in that? For example, and the reason we push code so much, and you guys have to understand this, we're saying college has taught you, and this is a big scam, right? Or the big lie. College has taught you or convinced you that there are several industries in engineering, One of them is coding.
Yep.
Then the others are chemical engineering, mechanical, mechatronics. That is wrong, right? Because let's take an example of English. Okay, English is not. It's not like you have English and then you have other skills. English is the core requirement for all skills, right? It's the base. Like if you don't know English, you can't even understand this live session, right? So English is like a language that you use to communicate with other people. Now, what started happening in all these industries is every industry is using code as the underlying language, bar none. Like there is no industry right now that doesn't use code as a language, not even medicine. When you do genomic analysis, when you figure out the DNA of something, of any, say the coronavirus, you're actually using a sequencer, and the sequencer runs on code, right? So code has now become the underlying language and the framework for everything, right? For everything. So it's literally like, I can hear myself saying, guys, learn English, learn English, learn English, learn English, learn English. And you're saying, but English is not related to mechanical. Of course it is. How are you going to understand anything about mechanical engineering if you don't understand English? If you can't read the books, right? Same thing with code. If you don't understand the engineering, how, a device has been made. And with 3D printing coming out, with IoT coming out, today what's going to happen is the devices are going to be available. The raw materials are going to be available. Your job is to be a Lego player, like put the pieces together and then write the code for it to light up in the right areas to do the things you need it to do, right? Now, if you don't know code, even if you know how the things work, you won't know the code behind it, right? You won't know how to power it on or off. You know theoretically how to do it, but you cannot do it with your hands, right? And that's the reason why I asked you to learn code, because every industry is going to be fully automated in the next 20 years. Every single, like I used to think, okay, there's some industries that are safe from automation in 20 years. I now disagree. If you live another 20 years, every industry will use code. There will be nothing outside of code. I mean, there will be mechanical or mechatronics. They will still be divided into the industry, but the underlying current will still be code, right? So if you do not learn it, I can't help you. I can't save you, and I'm trying my best. But I want to hear your thoughts on this. Why do we talk about code all the time?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, my thing is, see, we two are little different that way. You are a risk taker and I am more of a comfortable guy, right? So good that we both are here. So risk taking is fine. What I would say is, if you want to have a comfortable life in a comfortable job, don't want to take a lot of risk, then go for that skill which everybody wants. And that skill right now is coding. If you can code, even if tomorrow say Microsoft shuts down, but suppose if it shuts down, apart from the share loss, I will have no other loss, right? Because I have been taking my salary all through long, and tomorrow I'll get another job from say Amazon, from Google, from any other company, any startup, because I have that core skill which everybody wants right now. That's what I'm trying to say. Don't try to make yourself future proof. Try to make yourself present proof. For next 1 or 2 years, are you safe? The next 1 or 2 years, are you safe? It's just, even if you have a safe mentality, don't want to take risk, like Varun, like if you want to be like me, a simple person having a comfortable life, that also is very easy to do when you don't go to college and you create a path for yourself and you code your way out of these things. That's what I would say,
Right, and just to add to an extension of this, right? Somebody said, I don't like coding at all. I've tried it so many times. I want to tell you something, okay? You shouldn't like or dislike code, right? You can like code if you want to, but think of code like English, like a language. I don't like or dislike English. I use it, right? It's a necessity. It's like, think of an auto driver that goes, like say you move to Chennai tomorrow, okay? And you have a job there or whatever, and you move to rural Chennai, and everyone there speaks Tamil. Nobody else speaks English there. If you want to get your way around the city, if you want to take an auto to get to somewhere, if you want to buy something, if anything you want to do, you need to understand Tamil, right? Little bit of Tamil at least.
True.
And code is, you should look at it the same way. It's not like you like or dislike Tamil, you use it for a reason, right? It's like,
exactly.
It's like a tool. Right?
It's a means to an end.
Yeah. So, and you know what? It's only hard because your teachers make it hard. I can guarantee you that.
Yep.
I can guarantee you that the way you've been learning code is either you've been giving up within 1 week, or somebody who has taught you in such a painful way that I feel like taking, a bus right now and going there and slapping that person in the face for discouraging a future leader of the country. Because with code, you can change the lives of millions. You can actually change the life of hundreds of thousands, millions of people, make this a better country. But somebody has convinced you that it is something to hate. right? Why? Right? Because the assignments, because of things like polymorphism, inheritance, those are rubbish words. You don't need to learn any of that.
Exactly.
You can go to the basics.
Yep.
Right? And at the end of the day, you'll find out that the basics are code is just like English. It's like a dumb, simplified version of English. It's like, if I open my door, air will come in. That is code. That's logic. It's just logic written down on a piece of paper. It is not that difficult. You have to start from the very basics. But, enough of a rant there.
Yeah, man. Until the bucket is empty, keep pouring the water out. That's code. That's a for loop for you. You gave an if else example. I'm giving a for loop. That's code. You talk. People are saying the coding logic is tough. I'm like, are you logical? If you're logical, then how is it tough? It's just English with some constructs, right? But
right, so you don't need to think about oops and this and that. That just confuses people. I found that's the wrong way to teach people. Instead, you teach people by helping them make something. In fact, when we do the Unreal course together on Meta, for whoever is a part of Meta, you'll see that there's a scene where there's a guy who hits another guy. We will write that entire scene down through code where the guy first appears and hits the other person, and you'll realize we're doing it very logically. We don't care about any concepts. We're first going to do it very painstakingly, then we're going to use a loop and if conditions to shorten it. Eventually, we will shorten it to a point where we're like, here is why we write code, to shorten everything. Right? We will come to that as we go, but that's, the same thing. If you go through Tanay's course, you'll find out exactly the same thing, right? We go very simple, get fucking better teachers.
Yeah, man. Seriously, almost 10,000 students have created their website going through the YouTube thing, which I started last year. Please go ahead and try all of this. Yeah, these are great questions. I don't see why you should, and I don't understand why you are drawing parallels that I don't want to do coding, so I should go to college. How is going to college help
stupid.
you? Yeah, what's that logic coming on? I want to get married, so I should go to college. You should ask why I should go to college is because am I getting educated? Am I getting placed? Am I getting anything out of my 10-20 lakh rupees and 4 years of my life? You should not have these. How are you drawing these parallels? Like, give me some good questions. Come on.
So in general, college has nothing to do with any of this, right? Whether you talk about mechanical, mechatronics, commerce, college has nothing to do with any of this. College is just something completely separate for all of this. And I think it is Elon Musk quote, right? If you go to college to have fun and do your work, right? Prove that you can clean your room and things like that. It's not for a job. If you want a job, just go apply to a company or work on some projects.
Sobin is saying, I'm terrible in coding. Is there any other suggestion? First of all, nobody is terrible in coding. You have not tried it enough. But even if you are, there's design, there's business, there's product management, there's hundreds of things, dude, which you can do.
And you have to,
it's not like it's a binary coding or not. Yeah, go ahead.
And Tanay, you have to remember all of these are also communication skills. Design is a communication skill, right? You're communicating the value of something through a poster or through some art. 3D is a communication skill. Management is a communication skill. Everything is a communication skill. Code is also a type of communication skill. Now, when you have these skills, that's why I think the word technical skill is wrong, right? I think the word technical and soft skills are wrong. I think there's got to be 3 segments. First is communication skills, right? Let's redivide it into 3 segments. There should be first a technical hard skill, which is code or knowing the English language or design or 3D or whatever it is. Then there is the industry that you work in, because the same 3D skills or the same code, you can apply it in the plumbing industry, you can apply it in the construction industry. So there's an industry specific vertical, right? And then finally there's the behavioral skills, which is how do you convince people, how do you negotiate, how do you manage your time. So those are soft skills. So there are 3 sets, whereas people think there are 2. That's the confusion, right? They're combining some hard skills like management, this, that, with some other, it's not vertical focus. Some are vertical focus, some are, broad. So that's why computer science gets the most kind of recruitment, because it's the most broad field. You can use it in construction, you can use it in plumbing, whatever. It's a one size fits all. Whereas if you learn mechanical, you're stuck in that one field, right? You're stuck in that one field.
True.
So that's I think a small confusion that people get into trouble with.
Someone is asking whether I can get into product management as a fresher. And I had this podcast recorded a few days back, and he's a guy from IIM working as a PM in Microsoft. And only thing which he said is, dude, I want to come to your show on your Instagram sometime and talk about how IIMs are the worst thing to happen to anyone, and how not to get into IIMs, because at least in engineering you learn a science. In MBAs you learn just art, and you should not pay so much money to learn art, and so much time to learn these things. And I'll have him someday on the live, and we'll talk about this. I think we need to have more people talking about how college has wasted their life, so that more and more people get convinced. But so this is coming from this, and I asked him this question, Varun. Suppose he takes interviews, right? He's a product manager. Suppose you have two people, one who is from an IIM, and other person who has some experience in product management, running a startup, or doing anything, open source project management or something like that. Who will you choose? He said, any day the second person, because he is a self-starter and because he has some relevant experience. See, IIM Bangalore versus this, and I'm quoting him. Okay, so please understand that all of these fields are open for freshers. All of these fields are open for new people. All you need to do is get skilled, get some relevant references. Things will not happen magically for anyone here, right? You have to do your part of the job as well. I can't say that, hey, this is the path, and you go walk, but then you say, no, but I don't want to walk. Okay, let me put you on my shoulders and let me walk for you. That won't happen. You have to walk the walk, walk the talk. I can only talk, right? So do those things here. Don't ask these questions wherein you are trying to be lazy.
So one question that I want to take up next, right, which I think is very important, is a lot of parents think degrees you can fall back on it. You can fall on the degree if there's something happens. I want to say one thing. If you're standing on a road, right, and you fall, right, and your degree, your piece of paper is there to cushion your fall, and you're falling, say, leftwards and on your face, I can guarantee you the concrete will crack your skull, right? The degree is not going to provide any cushion, right? Similarly, in the real world, tell me how are you supposed to use the degree? You see, things have worth depending on the worth assigned to them by society. Money has worth because everyone agrees that money has worth, right? We agree that 5 rupees is 5 rupees, right? We agree that a chair is a chair and you can sit on it. We all agree on this, even whether it's utilitarian value is true or not. There are some things that people agree on. So people ask, right, how would a world be without money? Actually, there would always be money. Anything that has worth will just become money, right? Earlier, it used to be tulips in the olden days. Tulips used to be a replacement for money. There used to be seashells, which used to be a replacement for money. I actually made a long video on the history of money, right, and where it came from the shells to the actual conscription. Anyway, that's a separate topic. But the point is, money will always exist, right? It's what gives it worth. Now, a degree is only worth as much as people who believe in it, right? Society that believes in it. And society is starting to lose faith in the degree, right? And the first people to lose faith in the degree are the recruiters themselves, right? We are recruiters ourselves. We've hired people in the past, and we know our peers, and we know everyone's losing faith in the degree. So it is a depreciating asset. Now, what is the extent of its depreciation? How low is it going to go? And my answer to this is it is going to go down to zero, simply because of supply demand. There are too many people with a degree and too few people who want a degreed individual. That's it. That's it, right? So the value
that's what happened with Java or PHP, because everybody started learning Java or PHP, in colleges, and the industry moved on from there. It's not like Java is not being used anywhere. It's not like some companies won't ask for degree tomorrow, but there will be very few, like COBOL, like degree. These things will become archaic in very short time, and you will see this happening because when the world comes outside, after a shock, it changes drastically. It won't take 10 years now to the degree to lose its value. It will be done in 2 years, and you will see this. That's why we are here to tell you this. See, I'm not going to make money out of this. He's not going to make money out of this. If you are dropping out of college, it's because we care. We are telling you this. Now there are 3 questions which came. Very interesting question. One question was, my mom is asking how much money you two make. Okay, so Varun's net worth you can find on Google very easily, I think. And my salary you can find on Google. Go to levels.fyi and find how much a software engineer 2 in Microsoft is making right now. It's all public information. Second thing is, some professor someone's father is a professor and says no degree means no job. I would like to answer to that person, to your father respectfully, is people are getting jobs. Please join the Team Tane challenge group. People are getting jobs every day here. Okay, without any degree, 15-year-old, 17-year-old, 20-year-olds are getting job without degrees. And third question which came here is, someone is asking that no degree means no education. Now this is where I want you to go ahead and tackle this. How is no degree means no education, Varun?
See, I think this is a problem with storytelling, right? If enough people,
Yep.
and that's why I really like the word graduate, right? If there are enough stories coming out telling you degree equal to uneducation or no education, then your parents will change their mind. If I show your parents 10,000 stories of people who've come out with a degree who have no job, then the narrative changes. And I can guarantee you there are way more than 10,000. In fact, 94% of India, 94% of people who go to an engineering college in India and 93% of people who go to an MBA in India are unemployed. But you do not hear
Exactly.
their stories, because the way media works is media only carries positive stories of people who got like a 1 lakh package, 1 crore package, 10 crore package, whatever. And the parents think, oh, my son is going to go and get a 1 crore package, which is not true.
These are all sponsored
Right.
stories, by the way.
By
All of these are
tuition
sponsored
centers,
by the colleges. Yep.
by colleges, tuition centers. Think about the people, the money. I mean, dude, that's the thing, right? Media is very manipulatable. If you have money, you can, like, to get an article, say in Forbes right now, it costs you about $3,500, right? And for a college, 1.5 lakhs is nothing, because that's a fraction of the donation seat that they get. So they go to the college and they say, write one story about our student getting 1 crore, right? So don't be gullible. Don't be an idiot. Right? So don't think that what you read on the media is true. So what we are trying to do with this entire independent media thing, and by the way, media is also the same people that told you, coronavirus is just the flu. They're getting belted for it in the US, but they are the ones that downplay things when they're the ones that take the controversial stance, right? Usually. So what started happening now, unless it's sponsored, if they're sponsored, then they will take the stance of whoever sponsored it. Now, because that's the only source of revenue. Now, what we are trying to do with Gradiate is give you enough stories of people who have a degree, who have gone through 4 years of college, who have wasted their time, who have been made to do unnecessary assignments, who have made to have 75% attendance and failed for not having 75. Ibadat, who's the graphic designer at Avalon, you've seen his work, right? You can follow him on Instagram, very good. He got kicked out of college because of attendance issues. So I have at least 5 to 10,000 students like that, or people who have worked with me like that, or people who are on Instagram who are tagging me like that. I'm sure you've also seen it. The minute we put the Gradiate thing, the amount of people who are like, college wasted my time, I have not got a job because of college, and they still end up doing well in life after 2-3 years because of their own efforts. So you make a correlation saying, oh, degree equal to job, right? You might say, Tane's got a degree from Manipal, that's equal to job. But you don't realize that that's not what got the job, right? So it has to be correct correlation and causation, which is, we are not figuring out causation, we're saying correlation, right? So this happened, so this caused this, which may not be true. This happened, this ruined my life for 2 years, then I figure out things by myself. That always happens. People always have a penchant for figuring things out at some point in their life, whether at 30, 35, whatever. But I'm collecting stories, and we are collecting stories, and that's why you must tell your stories of people who've been through college, who've passed, who have, got flying colors in college, and then screwed up in life, right? And that's what the Gradiate Club is about. And they're technically degree and uneducated.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who replied on the Instagram saying, finally, I have a word for my resume. And people thought this is an actual word. And they're saying, yeah, I relate to it. There were so many retweets. When I changed my job, I didn't get so many retweets on that. But this was like, yeah, man, we love you for coming up with the Gradiate thing and all of this. So we have to change the narrative, and all of who's listening, your parents, you have to understand that this is a narrative set from people who have a lot of money in their hands, and they want to, just believe that going to college equals success, which is far from true. Far from true. There's nothing worse than this, actually, this narrative. But yeah, we live in this world where money speaks a lot of things, right?
So we are going to, we have just 5 minutes left. I don't know how we burned through 2 hours tonight, but I'm going to take one statement that I saw here, which is beautiful. My dad was watching the previous live. He kept saying degree is useless, and he just went. I really don't understand my parents. They know it, they tell it to me, but they want me to do bachelor's. So this is the I'm telling you, it's the fundamental problem. Your parents at some point, somewhere back of their head, they're seeing the change, guys. They're not completely oblivious either, right? They're doing it more for the
True.
social credibility that this thing. So if we make it socially cool, if we put social pressure, reverse social pressure on the idea of actual portfolios and creating things and building things rather than college, right? Rather than a
True.
degree. So proof of work over somebody else proving that you're good. Two different things. Proof
True.
of my own work versus proof of somebody else telling me that I'm good. If we make this cooler, proof of actual work, then we as a team, as a community would have succeeded in convincing parents. So it's a
Definitely.
social effort.
Definitely. I mean, people take drop years to go to IITs or some good college. I would say take a drop year and create things. And in that 1 year, if you are very successful, nobody is going to send to your college, because 1 year is all it takes to learn a good skill and get an internship and prove your worth outside. That, hey, see, while others are studying there or others are going to that quota factory, I am actually making money, making connections, and learning real shit in this world. And that's the best experiment you can do that, right? So take
And I
that drop
think, you
year
know,
and please talk to your parents.
I think just finishing off on this, dude, if you're a parent and you're listening to me, think about what the world really needs, right? I know there's this selfish need of, okay, will I be successful? Will my son be able to take care of me? Will my daughter be able to take care of me? I understand that, right? I know the safety idea, but also think about the world you want to live in, right? Do you want to live in a world where there are people who suffer? Because when there are people who suffer, right? In a way, there's also a small chance that you could be a part of the people that suffer. And at the end of the day, the world that we made, at least even the poorest of people today have the basic food. Like some people in India don't, but that situation has gotten much better over the last 100 years. Why has it gotten better? Because of people creating things, right? So
True.
as a country, we need to come forth and build, right? We need to come forth and create, because if we don't do it, if we don't put pressure on people to create a portfolio, to create things that makes the world better, then who is going to do it, right? If everyone runs behind a degree. So at the end of the day, it's also creating things like asking people to build portfolio as a side effect. Things are created that help the world, right? And it's your responsibility, or as a parent, to make sure those things enter the world, right? Allow your children to give birth to their ideas rather than other children, right? Give it some time, give some gap till they have their own
Definitely.
children, right? Give birth to their own ideas. And the only way they're going to do that is with you giving them the space and the energy to do that. College does not. College is the biggest spanner in creating something. Trust me on this.
Definitely. Well put. People who are asking where do we get the Excel sheets? Follow Varun, follow me. We both will share the sheets and the entire thing. We are coming up with a club for graduates wherein, everybody who's a graduate will come and tell, no, don't be a graduate, and how to not be a graduate. And follow
We need
Varun.
stories, guys.
Turn the subscription button on or whatever it is, so that when the Excel sheets are out, and it will be out sometime this week itself.
So guys, we will share it with you, and more importantly, we need more stories of people who have been through college, who the degree has not really helped. We need those stories. Those stories are really valuable, not for you or me, but for other people who are contemplating this decision. At the end of the day, when people take a decision, they don't see the stats. They don't see 93% of people are unemployed, because they always think that I could be part of the 7% that's employed. But one single anecdotal story can change their lives. And today, trust me, colleges are in a situation where even a film college, where you require production material and things like that to do college, they're still doing online classes and they're still charging, right? So if you don't tell the story, that scam is going to continue. So please tell your stories. That's all I ask.
Yep. Definitely. That's it. Yeah. I think we have covered everything and anything. Yep. And what I'm going to do now is, we have time, 1 minute. What I'm going to do is, anybody now who comes on your live or who comes on my live or my podcast or anything, we'll ask them one question: how much college helped you for 1 or 2 minutes, so that we get more stories from people who have made it, so that we start changing the narrative. Because once we put out these things, I think students will know that everybody is saying that colleges are not helpful. It's not just the two of us.
All right, guys.
Cool.
Thank you for joining, Tanay. Thank you for joining everybody else. I hope we've given you some ammo. And I will see you guys shortly. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.